welcome you all into this space, a calm community space with good energy. And I was asked last week in one of the Curious About Coaching, how do you find a community that is supportive? We know how many communities we're in that are not supportive, or spaces we're in that are not supportive. And potentially they're hard to find, but when you find them, stay in them, show up for them, notice and be aware of it, and make sure as we move ahead on this journey together that you keep coming back to it. Make sure that you remember, amidst the sea of whatever, that there are spaces that feel good and comfortable, and continue to look for them. Mr. Rogers always says, look for the helpers. And I would say, look for the safe spaces, look for the support, look for the things that steady you. And as it has been quite a week, carefully chosen words, this weekend, I thought I would also focus on finding steadiness as we move forward. There's a lot of energy out there of stress and angst and worry and what if. And so my focus, as always in coaching or in yoga, is what can we do? What can you do? What can change your experience of what is and the things that are out of your control to be better for you? Not because what's happening around you is not okay or is okay, but because when you are steady, you can respond more effectively and productively and hopefully and thoughtfully and deliberately. So my invitation today is going to be steadying your inner landscape. And this idea actually came from something I read this morning, written by a columnist who was talking about what we could do. And I loved the fact that someone who is not a mindfulness person and not a coach and not a yoga person, that was what they said. I know that some of you also focus on the inner landscape, but that invitation felt right for this morning. And tomorrow I'm going to focus on being a more tree, because I love trees and I find nature very soothing, and there are lessons from trees. And so whether you move forward being a lighthouse, being a tree, focusing on calm or grace or buoyancy, whatever it is for you, it's all about steadying your inner landscape, connecting to it, and being intentional about that. And that is 100% in our control. And so use your breath, sending it into that inner landscape as we begin. Breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. Bathing your inner landscape from fingertips to toenails to belly with breath. Letting the breath steady you. Noticing that the breath can steady you, and your breath is always available. And as you breathe, connect to this idea of other things that steady you. Potentially nature, potentially time on your mat, potentially strategic or intentional thoughts, potentially space, potentially rest. Letting yourself trust yourself and your inner knowing about what steadies you, what supports you. And perhaps setting an intention to make room for more of that. And my invitation this morning is, don't forget about community and people. They can actually, from the outside, help us steady the inside. Whether it be someone, an individual that you love, a community space like this that steadies you, group coaching that steadies you, taking time out for a retreat that might steady you, travel steadies some people, the ocean steadies people. Thinking about that. How can you have more of that? How can you create more of that? And noticing the inner energy that you use to do that. And so taking a moment here to notice your inner energy, surveying the scene on the inside. Potentially, what does it look like? Notice the breath as you do this. Notice your sit bones as you do this. Notice how your belly feels, your heart feels, your lungs feel. Do you have a lump in your throat? As you breathe, notice how you're sitting. Potentially sit taller, grow taller, reach the crown of your head to the sky. Standing tall, maybe like a tree, maybe like a lighthouse, maybe like yourself, the strong inner self, the highest, wisest version of yourself. Using the breath to steady you. And I invite you to bring a hand to heart or two hands to heart or a hand to heart, hand to belly, whichever feels like it steadies you. And close eyes, draw your attention to the inside. And that inner landscape, gifting it breath, attention, space, kindness, refilling, replenishing, restoring that inner landscape. When we have a steady inner landscape, we can show up on the outside differently. We have more to give, and we can be helpful in whatever ways might be our role or our path. And taking in a breath that's helpful for you, sending it everywhere, perhaps the underside of your hands pressing into that inner body. Exhale, let it out. And take a moment here to notice what feels steady. Is it your root? Is it the pressure on your chest or your belly? Is it your spine aligned, reaching to the sky? Is it space for your heart to fill that steadies you? Physically, what steadies you? And as we move through practice today, we'll look at what physically steadies us, along with some thoughts that feel steadying. And I invite you, as you move off your mat later, to look at other things in the world that steady you on the inside. Pay attention to those, seek out more of those, enjoy those. Give yourself permission to do those. Having a healthy inner landscape, physically, emotionally, is one of the things that we can do in this moment for our loved ones and for everyone else sharing this time and space in the world together with us. Taking another big, deep, collective breath, filling yourself up, sending the breath around your heart, softening potentially the lump in the throat to the backs of the hands. And a huge exhale, release whatever you'd like to not keep on the inside. And maybe one more huge inhale. And a softening, letting go, releasing some of that tightness. Noticing that in this moment, how you feel. We can release and have it feel good. Enjoy the softening. And when you feel ready, open eyes. Notice your hands on wherever they are and lower them down Take a minute to come back into this space together. Shrugging shoulders up to your ears, drop your occiput in, enjoy that awakening. Notice what's happening on the inside and release. Enjoy the melt on the inside. Notice the shoulders soften, wiggle fingers, let in some lightness, and find a spot in front of you that's not moving. That is what we do when we balance for steadiness, and potentially doing that as you're sitting, potentially using that idea of finding something that's not moving, finding something in your universe, in your perspective that is steady. And find your belly, that belly button that's always there for you, and reaching arms up to the sky, interlace your fingers and have a shimmy. Root the sit bones downward and the palms up as high as you can. Huge breath in, root the sit bones down as you tip leftward, feeling steady, noticing that littler movements enhance steadiness. Inhale, grow tall, send the breath down into your root, into the earth beneath you. Exhale, tip leftward slightly while feeling very steady and rooted. Inhale, come back to center. Exhale, tip rightward, maintaining the steady, maintaining the connection, maintaining the roots downward, maintaining the lift, growing, reaching towards the sunlight, which is often steadying. Exhale the breath, that can be steadying, and exhale. Come back to center. Opening arms out to the sides, turn your palms to the front and start with just a huge hug. Steadying you on the inside, giving yourself a squeeze, acknowledging the energy of the week, whatever it's been for you. Huge breath in, and then release, exhale. And untangle. Stretch your arms, press the palms into the side walls, pinch your scapula, spread your fingers. Lots of energy coming in here. And give yourself a huge hug in the opposite way. And it may look different here. You may have a different range of motion. Being kind to yourself, squeezing, rocking, whatever feels good to find steady. Letting this act of compassion and kindness steady you. An act that's always available if needed. Big breath in, pouring it down into your root as you squeeze and give yourself a hug. Exhale, send the breath also down into the earth, rooting yourself downward, finding steady. Steady outside and inside. Open eyes, stretch your arms wide, and you'll lower your right fist to the floor. If you're up on a block, it'll probably be fist or fingertips. Inhale that left arm up, stretch the left side body, bend your right elbow, roll the right shoulder forward, and enjoy a stretch here. Breathing in, connecting to steady as you breathe. Exhale. Breathe into your belly button here, your center. And exhale, let it out. Inhale and switch to the opposite side. Connect with what feels solid here as you land. Solid fingers, solid hips, solid root. Reach the right hand leftwards. Big breath into every nook and cranny. Exhale, let it out. Potentially close eyes, connect to that inner landscape. Sending healing and space and kindness to your inner self. Open eyes, reach both arms up to the sky, lower them down, shake your hands out, roll your shoulders, and take out whatever you are sitting on. And if your legs are falling asleep, give them a bang, being kind, and find your root here once again. Move the flesh of your seat out of the way and root those ischial spines downward into the earth. Bend your knees gently, ankles are flexed, toes are wiggly. Finding steadiness here through your center, through that inner core. Grow your spine tall. Inhale, reach your arms up to the sky with knees bent, fold towards your toes. You'll use your belly a bit more here. Enjoy the back. Head and neck release, and you're engaged in working and folding all at the same time. Wiggle toes. Slowly lower your knees to the floor as you rise up and align your spine towards the sky. Sitting tall, wiggle toes, bring hands behind you like fingers come on the floor like there's cupcakes underneath, and don't squish the frosting. Press the fingers downward, shoulders down and back, and puff that chest out to the front. Huge breath in, connect to the root and the floor underneath you. Exhale, coming into Dandasana or staff pose, a steadying pose. Notice what feels strong on the inside. And I invite you here to close your eyes, check in with that inner landscape, fortifying it, strengthening it, healing it, wrapping it with breath and energy and kindness, helping it find pockets of steady. Exhale, release. Inhale, sending that breath as a wrapping around the heart, like a hug. And let it out. And we'll come to hands and knees. And take a moment here to find your steadiest tabletop. Spread all 5 fingers on each hand. Flatten your palms into the earth. Notice the connection. Helpful to feel steady on the inside. Press hands into the floor. Engage your elbows and your shoulders. We find steadiness with intention. Engage your belly. Notice your knees. Are they narrower than your hands? Widen them and notice the steady. Breathe into your belly. Exhale, flatten your back a wee bit more, coming into the most stable table you've got. Inhale once again. Tighten the belly. And once more, close eyes, connect inward. Notice the sense of steady here. Stretch your right leg long. Drop your right heel to the left and reach the right arm to the sky. Roll your shoulder forward in 3 big circles. Spine steady here as your arm is rolling around. Notice what you need. Little edges of the feet and fingers pressing downward. Enjoying the movement and noticing what's helpful. Come to steadiness here. We'll reach that right arm up and lower it over the right ear. Enjoy a wee stretch. Right fingers reach all the way over that right ear. Plant the top of your left foot into the earth to steady. Notice your knee. And if you wish, raise your right leg up, coming to a balanced pose here. A moment of unsteady, and go inward to find steady. Notice what's needed. It's that inner you, inner landscape, inner steady. Find your belly. Notice what works. Notice what's needed as you tip, which is normal. Where do you re-find steady? Our inner landscape won't always be steady. It's how do we recalibrate? How do we find it again when we're off kilter? Lower your right foot, lower your hand, lower your knees. Inhale for a cow, but not the biggest cow, a little cow. Finding your belly button here, using your hips to tuck into cat. Again, not the biggest cat, using that center, finding stable, finding strong, finding that control. Come back to tabletop. Find steady once again, the most stable table. That's cute. Spread all 5 fingers. Palms reach to the floor. Engage your elbows, humeral heads into the shoulder socket. Stretch your left leg long. Drop the heel to the right and reach that left arm up and enjoy some circles. Inviting the movement and finding steady Even as your arm potentially wiggles you off course. Reach the left arm over the left ear. Enjoy the stretch. Press the top of the right foot, into the floor and raise your left foot. Notice what's needed to find steady here as you wobble, finding the balance, finding steady on the inside. Notice your inner landscape. What does it need to support you? When we're steady on the inside, we can respond steady to things on the outside. Drop your left foot, reach your left arm up. Come back to tabletop. A quick cat-cow of kindness, just what feels good, what your back needs. And we'll spread our knees wide, shift back to child's pose. Sink your hips way, way down and low. Wiggle fingers as far forward as possible. Drop forehead to the floor. And take a moment here to go inward and to tend to that inner landscape. Steady it. It's the one thing that's fully 100% in our control. What does your inner landscape need to be healthy and whole? What kind of care does it need? Does it need rest, water, space, the support of others, sunshine, fresh air? Does it need managing your mind so it doesn't send your inner landscape haywire directions? Send the breath and wrap your heart with breath. Send this next breath all the way to the belly and the groin, down to your root. Exhale, soften and sink in a wee bit more. Hips sink downward. Notice your palms on the floor, knees on the floor, forehead on the floor, root reaching to the floor, tops of the feet on the floor. The earth beneath is steady. And we will come up to hands and knees here. Find steady before we move. Noticing that slow, intentional movements help us find that. Curl your back toes, walk your hands forward a handprint, and lift up to downward dog. Whatever kind of downward dog feels good to you today. And let yourself enjoy it. Remembering Rhonda McGee's, it's our call to experience joy. Even as we work for better, whether that better is within us or outside us. Waggle back and forth, shift your weight forward and back, find steady, find center. Potentially close your eyes as you do. Let yourself feel steady and feel center on the inside. And noticing perhaps in your mind's eye when you bring something beautiful or a face to mind or a certain field of flowers to mind, that steady comes more readily. Bend the left knee, straight the right, press your right heel towards the floor, enjoy the release. Root the right heel to the floor if you can. Find steady here in the straight right leg. And switch sides. Bend the right knee, press the left heel to the earth. Take a moment here to find steady. Two hands, one heel to the earth. Left toes on the earth, right toes on the earth. Come back to center and lift up onto your tippy toes. Unsteady for a moment, reaching as high as you can. Your sit bones are going to reach high, 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 high. Press your weight backwards. Lower your forehead towards the floor and slowly lower your heels. Enjoy the energetic shifts here. 2 breaths, big ones. Huge breath in and exhale out. And I invite you to do either a lion's breath or a horse's breath, whichever one resonates more for you, that your body likes to let things go.
Take a moment to land after that. Steady that inner landscape, steady the wandering mind, steady the tenseness in the heart and the throat. Soften your throat with intention. Swallow with intention. Coming down to your belly, find your belly with intention, the steadiness. Inhale and raise your left leg to the sky, three-legged dog. Let it be a steady dog. Taking a minute. Huge breath in. Exhale, bring that left foot between your hands, coming to a high lunge, which is inherently unsteady. And as you arrive, take a moment here to notice what you can do to steady this lunge. Widen your stance, tack your hips, left hip back, right hip forward, potentially readjust your toes. Learnings here, little micro things can steady you. What is it? Does the breath steady you? Bring hands to heart. Does that steady you? Or hands together with thumbs pressing into the heart. Does that steady you? Take in a big, deep breath. Exhale, bend the front knee more. Make the lunge a little bit longer. Steady your gaze somewhere in front of you. A very still inner landscape. Straight your front knee. Exhale, bend a little bit deeper. Inhale, straight the front knee. And exhale, bend and soften deeper. Sending some kindness to the right hip flexor, letting it release a little tension. Noticing that the tension makes it friable. Inhale, straight. Exhale, bend. Close eyes and take 3 breaths here, bent. And notice some desire to bounce. See if you can find stillness today. Trusting your leg to hold you, trusting your inner balance and steadiness, trusting that inner landscape. Most of us are not super trusting of ourselves. And in this point in time, trusting ourselves is going to be essential. Lower hands to the floor on the inside of that left foot. Wiggle your left foot to the outside. Wiggle the back foot back and you'll drop your knee. Come into a lizard pose. You may need to walk the left foot farther forward. Up on your fists and roll to the outside of that left foot. Coming into a more traditional lizard pose, you can wiggle that back knee back a little bit. And while I have been inviting movement in the last few classes, today find stillness. Close eyes, drop into the inner landscape. Trust yourself, trust your body. Trust the outer edge of that foot to hold you. Let your groin know it's okay to release and let go a wee bit. Two more breaths here. Use the breath as a way to steady. Open eyes if they're closed, and you'll roll to the sole of the left foot, wiggle it towards the midline. Bring your left hand to the outside, curl the back toe. Come up to a high lunge here, both hands on the floor. Plant your right hand on the floor, twist leftward into a high lunge twist. You'll wiggle those left fingers towards the sky. Send some love to the left hip. Give it permission to soften. If you can, close your eyes, go inward. When we close our eyes, we lose our balance a bit. Keep that in mind. But as you're here, survey the scene in this somewhat awkward pose. Lower the left hand to the floor. Pop your back foot forward about 6 inches, drop your right heel, and cartwheel up to warrior 2. Notice if your left foot wants to move a little medial, check your heel to heel alignment. Always taking time to set yourself up to find that inner steady.
Gaze is over the left middle finger, that drishti. Having an intention or a direction is steadying. Taking a moment to close eyes and find that inner steady, the inner landscape. What is your direction here? What do you know inside? And with eyes closed in Warrior Two, take a minute to survey the landscape. It will be different than when you've surveyed it in other positions. Open eyes, gaze over that left middle finger, bend your left elbow, reach over the right ear, coming into side angle. Huge breath in here. Exhale, cartwheel up and back to elegant warrior, peaceful warrior. Fanning open the ribs, close eyes here and take a moment to survey your inner landscape. Notice when you close your eyes, you may get tippy. Exhale, come back to center and steady. And take a moment here to feel centered and steady. Huge breath in. Exhale, sink a little lower. Find that center steady. Close eyes, go inward for a moment. Notice tension in the throat, in the heart, in the belly, in the legs, in the feet. Invite some softness wherever that tension is, maybe wiggle fingers. Open eyes. Cartwheel your arms down on either side of the front foot. Turn your back foot to face front, and we'll hop the back foot all the way forward. It's a big hop to a forward fold. If you have blocks here, grab them, and you can stack them up one atop the other. If you don't, you'll just bring hands to elbows. Coming into a supported forward fold, if you have something to put your forehead on, can also put it on a couch or a chair. Soften your knees, sink your hips back a little bit. Press that third eye into the blocks. If you don't have the blocks, grasp elbows and hang. And take a moment here to go inward, steady yourself. Lift up all 10 toes, spread them wide, lower them down to steady. Notice the soles of your feet and their steadying presence. Notice your forehead, third eye, press downward. And if your forehead is not on something, notice your sit bones press downward. And notice your thighs here. Trust your legs. And breathe. Trust the breath. Lower hands if they are not down. Move the blocks if they are in your way. Find your belly and roll up. Inch by inch by inch by inch. Ever so slowly, align your spine. Move with steadiness until you arrive standing in Tadasana. Take a moment in Tadasana to drop into the most steady mountain pose. A mountain pose with inner strength, inner fortitude, inner calm, and inner presence. Remembering that mountains don't react. They just stand tall and graceful amidst whatever's happening all around for millions of years. Closing eyes and dropping into that inner landscape. It's that inner calm and inner steadiness that can guide us forward in this moment with clarity, deliberateness, calm, intention, aligned and authentically. Lifting up all 10 toes, root them downward, draw up the energy from the earth using your resources, draw them up into your legs, into your belly. Find that belly center, into your chest, filling your chest with breath. Wrap the heart with space, grow tall, align the crown of your head. Reach the spine as tall as you can. Huge breath in. Exhale, drop into that mountain again. Noticing the engagement of almost everything. It's not a rest pose. Breathing in, engaging all the tiny little muscle fibers to help you stand tall and graceful and elegantly, and let it out. And we will open eyes, coming together, and just invite a little bit of a wiggle, maybe a shoulder roll in either direction. We're going to do a unsteady balance pose to find that inner steady. Some of you may wish to use the wall, which is also fine. So you will lift up all 10 toes and lower them down into the earth to steady you. Draw up the earth's energy in through your legs, in through your belly, finding a center, a steady center. And your hands can be by your sides lightly or at heart center. You find what works to steady you. Root the right leg downward. Lift the left knee up to hip height to 90 degrees. And pause here. Wiggle toes, wiggle your left ankle. Come to stillness. Notice the right ankle potentially wobble and gift it some steadiness. Send your attention to the right leg and gift it some steadiness, and to your belly to gift it some steadiness. And notice if the left knee needs to adjust to do this. Bring your right hand to the top of the left leg towards the knee, and you'll reach your left hand behind you and gaze towards that left hand, coming into this standing balance pose. For some of you, this will be tricky. Others of you, you'll have the steadiness already. So notice what's you. If your shoulder doesn't want to raise, you can lower it down and just twist leftward, or use the wall to steady you. And notice within what is needed to find steady. What goes on in the inner landscape when balance is needed. Bring your gaze back to center, turn, twist back to center with legs still high. Take a moment to balance here. You can bring hands to hips or hands to heart or by your side. Steady yourself, grow tall. Notice the tension in the right leg, sending it some kindness, and lower down, release. Let everything go. In between sides, come into Tadasana. Root downward, find your inner steadiness. Connect with that inner landscape, your inner energy. And what does the inner landscape mean? It's all that's going on inside. Tone, energy, the angst, the tightness. It's physiologic and also emotional. All of those things. It's the neurochemicals, it's the thoughts, it's the energy, it's the oxygen. When you feel steady and regrouped, root the left leg downward, lift up all 5 toes, send them down, draw up the energy through the left leg, wrap your belly. A lot of times we move right on, and it's this step-by-step purposeful movement that helps us balance. Raise the right knee to hip height. When you arrive, decide hands on hips, hands by your sides, hands at heart center. You choose, might be different on this side. And take a moment to orient, to steady the wobbles. When you feel steady, left hand will come to the right thigh, twist to the right, and your right arm will come behind you. It can come out to the side, it can come all the way back, it can come down to your waist, it can come to the wall. Standing twist, and you're not grabbing that right leg, you're resting. Your left hand is to help you balance, and your right hand also helps you balance. The gaze over the right shoulder helps you find balance. As you wobble, notice what's needed to re-find steady on the inside. We can re-steady ourselves whenever. Coming back to center, Noticing that when you're tired, you can't steady yourself. So rest, lower that leg and shake it out. A good lesson in resting in between and resting so that you can steady yourself amidst whatever's out there. Lift up all 10 toes and lower them down. Inhale your arms out and up. We'll bring our palms together and hinge forward, forward fold to the floor. Inhale for a half lift. You can use blocks here if you wish or not. Exhale, forward fold. Release your back, release the tension. Inhale for a half lift again, filling your body with breath. Back is flat, rear end sticks out. Your knees can be bent gently. Exhale, forward fold. Plant hands on the earth. Step back to downward dog directly. Notice your hands, spread them wide. All 5 fingers spread wide. Plant palms, elbows in the socket. Ground the left foot into the earth. Close eyes, find your belly, find your center. Find that lower belly, the spot below your navel, the sacral plexus, and your root chakra, both high up in the air here. They are your authenticity, creativity centers. They are your root and safety centers. They are very helpful to a steady inner landscape, gifting them some attention, perhaps engaging your pelvic floor here, engaging your belly button, drawing your attention to that area, being aware of it and how it feels. Noticing what perhaps you can do to shift the energy there, even upside down. Take a big breath, sending it into that area to steady you, using it as your strength here. Root the left foot downward, raise your right leg up to the sky, 3-legged dog. Big breath in. Exhale, right foot comes between your hands, coming into the high lunge. And once again, take time here. Tuck the right hip back, left hip forward. Lengthen your stance, perhaps readjust anything that needs readjusting. Wiggle the right toes farther forward so they are in front of your knee. And bring hands to heart, palms together, thumbs into the sternum, or hand on heart. You choose what feels steadier. Again, it might be different on this side. Find a spot in front of you that's not moving. Inhale, straight the front knee. Exhale, bend deeper. Inhale, straight the front knee. Exhale, bend deeper. Inhale, straight your front knee. Exhale, sink in. And pause here, find balance. Might notice some wibbles and wobbles on this side. Your hips have had some energy used, potentially even tightness released, which might lead to a little more wobbling. Huge breath in. See if you can close your eyes and find your balance. Notice what's needed to find the inner steadiness. Notice the inner landscape needed to reorient. A lot of what's happening in our world is disorienting. What do you need to reorient yourself? Huge breath in. Exhale, lower hands to the inside of the right foot. You'll wiggle your right foot forward and bend the right knee. Drop the left knee to the earth. Come into lizard pose. Walk your foot to the outer edge of the mat. Roll onto the outer edge of that right foot. Staying up in lizard, your heart is shining forward, gaze is sort of forward. Let your neck be in line with your spine. No super extension here. Pour the breath into the pelvic region. If anything doesn't work for you, don't do it. If you need a blanket, do that. Always modify. You can always go to child's pose or tabletop or shavasana. Nobody's watching here. You do what you need. Trusting yourself is a very helpful thing to soothe the inner landscape. Learning to trust yourself, learning to trust your body. It's It's very powerful in having a steady inner landscape. And if you notice yourself wobbling, which I'm noticing myself wanting to do all the time, find steadiness, trust your body, trust the stillness, trust that it will be okay if you hold it for a moment, if you let it release. Bring your right hand to the outside of that right foot, roll onto the sole of the right foot, wiggle it back to center, curl the back toes, lift up to that high lunge, plant the left hand on the earth and twist to the right into that high lunge twist. Readjust your knees as you need. Back knee should be straight, front knee bent. Twist, roll out the right wrist. And if you can, close your eyes and suss out the inner landscape. Scan it. Send the breath to any remaining tense spots, or simply let them be seen if they are not ready to release or let go. That's fine too. There's a lot of support in seeing, acknowledging, noticing. Bring your right hand back to the outside of that right foot. Notice your hips and just take a moment to reorganize them. Drop your left heel to the ground and cartwheel up to that warrior two. Gaze over the right middle finger, drishti. Reorganize your feet if needed, heel to heel alignment. Right knee should be not in front of the right ankle, sorry. Close eyes here, find that inner steadiness. Thinking about the drishti ahead, where are you headed? What is your guiding light or inner light? Letting the inner landscape guide you. Your highest, wisest, most common, steady inner landscape guide you. Bend your right elbow, reach the left arm over, come to a very steady, easeful side angle, not jumping into the right arm or the right knee or the right thigh. Trust your legs. Trust your left arm to steady you. Trust the left outer edge of the left foot to steady you. Big inhale. Cartwheel up and back to elegant warrior on the exhale. And pause here. Close eyes if you can. Appreciate the inner landscape. Honor it. See it. Let the tiny farthest nether regions of the chest and the torso be seen, nourished with breath. And notice for a moment here how you may feel more steady, more grounded, more centered, more connected, and probably not all of them. And if you don't let that be a judgment. It's just the way it is. Being frustrated and upset will only destabilize you more. Come back to that warrior two. Pause and enjoy. Gaze forward, eyes open over the right middle finger, the drishti. Taking a moment here to grow your torso tall, crown of the head reaches to the sky, that perpendicular marionette. Exhale, sink in. Even as that front leg begins to tire, notice that steady inner chest landscape. Notice your rooting down to the floor. Huge breath in, bathing every nook and cranny, and out, releasing. Cartwheel your hands down to either side of that right foot. Turn the left toes forward and the huge hop forward to the front of the mat. Sink your hips back down and low. Come into chair pose. Widen your feet. Bring hands to heart today. Palms together to steady you. Sink your hips back. Trust your thighs. Trust yourself and your inner body. And take a moment here to notice that inner you, the inner strength. What's happening behind your thumbs? What's happening in your root and your sit bones and your thighs? And notice you can lift up all 10 toes. Use your feet, use your heels to support you. Lots of potential sources of support. Lower the toes down, hands down, release. When you're tired, take a break.
Reset the inner landscape. Don't let yourself get so off center. Huge breath in and out. And we will sink down. We're going to come into a yogi squat before we come to the floor.
It feels needed today. So come there however you get there. Hands to heart center, palms together, thumbs to the sternum, elbows to your knees, and reach your heels towards the floor. Some of your heels won't reach, and that is fine. You can put a blanket under it or not, honestly. You just sink your hips down. Letting that root chakra and sacral chakra be seen and felt. Reminding yourself that that inner landscape is not just your chest and your lungs and your heart and that lump in your throat. It comes all the way down to your safety centers, to your creativity centers, to your love centers, and that we can use those to support us, to steady us. Use that connection to yourself, powerful connection to others. What communities might help you now? And again, this community, maybe small group coaching, maybe join the Mindful Healthcare Collective, lots of like-minded humans wanting to move through the world more peacefully, mindfully, intentionally, and deliberately. What other spaces are there in your community? Maybe your children's schools, nursery schools, women's groups, but the ones that authentically feel good to you, not the one that takes effort to be a part of. Once you're there, it often takes effort to get into a new community, but once you're there, does it take effort? And as things tire, acknowledge it, lower hands, take a break, reach your sit bones to the sky, release, let the tingles and the integration happen, welcoming all of that reorganization, recalibration as you release and sway and enjoy being upside down for a final time here. Huge breath in, upside down, sending it into all the spots you don't reach when you're right side up. Exhale, release. Lift up all 10 toes with this next inhale. Exhale, release them. And take a moment to enjoy a steady inner landscape while upside down. Release anything that is not steady or is tense or held. And if you can't release it, soften it. Let it be seen. Open eyes, lower hands, and you'll unroll inch by inch, vertebrae by vertebrae, to stand in Tadasana, all messy. Let yourself recalibrate here, readjust. Let everything come back together inside. And you can make your way to lying down when you feel ready. Please don't rush. Take your time. And you may want to recalibrate once you've arrived on the floor. Let it feel really good. Take a moment with eyes closed to reorient here on the ground. Notice what's happening in your cells, in your toes, in your fingers, in your breath, in your throat. Pour a huge breath in all the way down to your belly, to your root. And exhale, let it out. Knock your knees together, bend knees and walk your heels towards you. Knock the knees together, bring the soles of your feet to the outer side of your mat. And you can do what you want with your arms here. I like cactus shape. Some of you might like a T. Some of you might like them by your side. We will drop our knees to the right. Left knee presses energetically towards the right front corner of the mat. Enjoy your hip. Let your back soften. Inhale, bring your knees back to center. Exhale to the left. Right knee reaches energetically to the left front corner. Use the breath here.
Bring your knees back to center, knock knee. Drop them to the right. You could stay here longer or do a few windshield wipers slowly. You decide what your back, body, hips, and inner landscape need today. Bring your knees together. Exhale, drop your knees to the left or in whatever pace you're doing. When this feels complete, bring your feet hips width, knees apart, hands come by your sides, lift up to a bridge to release the back. Have a shimmy if you wish, let your heart be light, tug the mat forward if you wish. Notice the soles of your feet, lift up toes if you wish. Let this be a bit dynamic and a bit wobbly, stretchy. Untuck shoulders, unroll vertebrae by vertebrae to the earth. Squeeze your knees into your chest, your forehead into your knees. Everything tight as a ball, tight, 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 tight. Exhale, release, and stretch long into Shavasana. And you can choose if you'd like legs long with toes flopping to the outside, or a Supta Baddha Konasana, Shavasana, which is reclining butterfly, hand to heart, hand to belly. Let your inner landscape decide what feels most nourishing, healing, and steadying. We'll take in a big collective breath together. And a long, smooth exhale out together of release. And together, we will drop into Shavasana. A few moments of rest, replenishment, restoring, healing on the inside. If you want to stay longer, please do. That was a short offering today, but in case some of you have places that you need to be or people depending on you. If you feel ready, gently deepen the breath slowly. One breath at a time, lengthen the inhale and lengthen the exhale. Wiggle fingers, toes, roll ankles and wrists. And invite movement and stretch in the most kind, loving, nourishing, and healing way as you can. Letting the movement support your inner landscape. And when you feel ready, make your way to a seat, comfortable seat. And this time I invite you to be on the floor, not on a block or a bolster. Your root connected to that firm earth beneath. Tilt the pelvic bowl forward, align your spine, grow the crown of your head to the sky. Envision the marionette cord reaching taller. Let your vertebrae land with gravity, one atop the other. Take in a big breath, collective breath. Collective exhale. And bring hands to heart. One hand to heart, one hand to belly, you choose. Enjoy another collective breath together. Exhaling that healing breath out to the others here with us today. May we all be well. May we all be safe. May we all be loved. And may we all focus on what is in our control.
May we all work to steady our inner landscape so that we can contribute meaningfully, helpfully, and kindly to the outer landscape. Thank you all so much for practicing with me this morning. The light in me reflects and honors the light in each and every one of you, near and far. Thank you all for practicing with me today. Namaste.